Hello, what are your strengths and weaknesses? Sometimes when we go to a job interview, this is one of the questions you have to respond. What are your strengths and weaknesses? Alright, so before we respond to this question, we have to look at the words the words generally we use to describe our strengths and the weaknesses. On the side of the strengths, we have we use some of these words actually: teamwork, problem solver, loves dealing with people, motivated, trustworthy, creativity, disciplined, dedicated, etc. etc. On the side of the weaknesses, we generally use these words: working alone, delegation, impatience, self criticism, introverted, perfectionism, disorganized, late with deadlines. So now we are going to, we have seen the words. Now we have to use them to make sentences so you can understand how we use them. And also, you have to understand how you use them when you are going for an interview. And they ask you this question. You have to select, before you go for a job interview, you have to select the ones here the qualities you have here, and also select some of the weaknesses you identify that you have. So now, how do we use these words or expressions? For example, somebody for strengths, you can say, I like working in teams, or I like doing team work. So you can say that I like or I love working in teams, so I like doing teamwork. Alright, for a problem solver, you can say, I am a problem solver, or I like solving problems. Okay, dealing with people, you can say, oh, I love, please, not loves. I love dealing with people. Or I have empathy, because empathy also is good for dealing with people. For being motivated, you can say, I am highly motivated, or I am a motivated person. For the trust, you can say, I am trustworthy, or my superiors trust me, or my colleagues trust me, or my company trusts me. For creativity, you can use I'm a creative person, or I am creative, or I am gifted with creativity. You can also use it. I am gifted, gift, present with creativity. For discipline, you can say I am a disciplined person, or I have discipline. For dedication, you can say I am dedicated to my company, or I have strong dedication to my company. Remember, when you go for a job interview and you use any of these sentences here, you have to show an example to show really that you have this quality. Because when you say, for example, I like working in teams, or I like doing teamwork, the examiner, the interviewer will ask you, can you give me an example of a situation where you worked in teams and what was the result? So you have to be ready, prepared during the interview, before the interview, to organize yourself. And any of these ones you use, you have to demonstrate, you have to show that you really have this quality in practice. Okay. So if you say that I'm highly, for example, if you say here, I like dealing with people, or I have empathy, they will ask you when to show that you have already used this quality. So when did you use it? You are, from a job, you have to say, for example, you worked in the sales departments and they always call you whenever there is a problem and you have to go there and solve it. That shows that you know how to deal with people. Or I have worked in the customers attainment department, because they receive a lot of complaints. So you deal with problems, people's problems all the time. Okay, so these are the sentences we make when we want to communicate. In terms of strengths, remember, you have to be ready to show an example of where you use this. Any of them you say, You have to show an example of use it, where you used it. All right, for weaknesses, you can use I prefer working alone, which means I don't like working in teams. I prefer working alone. Or I like to delegate tasks to others. Okay, that is, I don't like taking responsibility. That's what it means. I am sometimes impatient, or I criticize myself a lot whenever there is a problem. I am introverted. Is the same thing that I am shy to speak. For example, I am shy to speak in public. I am shy. What is shy? Timid. To speak in public. You can also say I am a perfectionist. That is, whatever I do, I want it to be perfect. This can be a weakness. You can say I am disorganized or I am messy. All right. So messy is the same thing as being disorganized. Somebody who is not organized. You can also, in terms of late with deadlines, I am late with a project deadlines. Remember, they will ask you during the job interview, and what are some of your weaknesses? So you can choose one or two of these sentences here and the present. But the main thing here is that when you use these sentences to represent your weakness, you have to show what you are doing to improve because you discover there is a problem, you have weaknesses. And then you have to say what you are doing to reduce the weaknesses, okay, or to improve on these weaknesses. What are you doing? Probably you are doing coaching, mentorship, okay. So you have to say what you are doing because you recognize that weaknesses are considered problems. So since you recognize you have problems, you have to say what you are doing to reduce these negative effects in you. So this is how you respond to interview questions. It's not sufficient for you to say my weaknesses are this, that. No, you can just use only one or two weaknesses, and then you have to say what you are doing to improve on those weak points. We call them weak points or weaknesses. Okay. So now the exercise for you will be, the question will be, what are your strengths and weaknesses? So you have to respond, my strengths are, remember, my strengths are, you can use any of these ones, or the ones you can use by yourself, the ones you determine by yourself. So here you can say, my strengths are, then you say what your strengths are, okay? And then weaknesses, the same thing, my weaknesses are this. Then the interviewer may ask you, what are you doing to improve your weaknesses? But sometimes they don't ask you. So once you say your weaknesses, you have to say what you are doing to improve these weaknesses. Don't wait for them to ask you. No. Sometimes they may ask you, sometimes they may not ask you. So you have to, immediately you say your weaknesses, you have to say what you are doing to improve on these weak points you have. Okay, so this is a very important part of the job interview questions and how to respond to them. Okay, so whenever they ask you what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses, be prepared to answer this question whenever you are going for a job interview. They will ask you this. Sometimes even for promotion, some senior positions in the same organization, they may ask you this. The same question, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? So be ready to respond to that. And in case of weaknesses, you have to say what you are doing. Probably you are doing some coaching or mentorship, or it could be emotional intelligence or anything that you can demonstrate that you are trying your best to, you recognize there is a problem and you are looking for a solution to that. Okay. So try as much as possible here and then write about your strengths and write about your weaknesses and what you're doing to improve on your weaknesses. And in this way, you are prepared to respond to this question during a job interview. Okay. So you can write your comments on what you think about this, or you can propose other topics we can talk about in this class. All right. So see you in our next class.